Okay, Marco from Inspector Detector again. We're now going to look at HVAC systems. This one is an electrical sealed system. We don't open a sealed system. Make sure you write that as a limitation. If it's a gas furnace, we open it. We have a look at the burners. One thing you must realize, we test units between 60 and 70 degrees. So if outside it's colder than 60, we do not test the air conditioner. If it's hotter than 70 outside, we do not test the furnace. If it's between 60 and 70, we will do both. We normally look at, if you look here, we're going to look at the data plate. I always take a picture of the data plate over there. That will give you information on the age of the unit, whether it's a heat pump or not. Explain to clients how heat pumps work. If you don't know what a heat pump is, do some investigation. Basically, a heat pump can take cold weather, compress that air, and produce hot air. So this will be emergency coils in here. Please test emergency coils in winter. I do find, due to people having heat pumps, if you like North Carolina, South Carolina, the heat pumps don't get used well, the heat pump does all the work. The emergency coils don't get used. So please test them. The way you test them is you put them onto emergency heat and then test the heat. Some people say if you put it up 5-6 degrees, the emergency heat will kick in. The possibility it doesn't is pretty good, so rather put the switch on emergency heat. You should smell the coils. If it doesn't produce good heat, your differential, you want at least over the 30s with the heat. With air conditioner, you want at least over 14. Most of my heat, I find I get into the 50s, which is great. Also look at whether the unit has been sealed correctly. You'll see over here where the lines come in, that they're nicely corked. Yeah, it's got an emergency overflow trap. You require that. Most of the time you'll just see a straight pipe. Either they need to have an emergency overflow switch or a trap. This unit has been installed correctly. You also need your condensate line needs to have a trap. The first one needs to have a cap. The second one is open. The reason they do this is that they can take this cap off. They can put a toothbrush down here. It's like a long wire brush. They go through and they can clean the line of the condensate line. The reason this one is not capped is that the water can flow through and not create a vacuum over here. So when it flows, it sucks the air from here and goes and keeps the water in the trap. If this is closed, then it has a possibility of sucking all that water out of the trap and it won't work. The reason this one is capped is, like I said, to clean, but if it's not capped, the cold air from the air conditioning unit's going to come in and blow straight out into the attic area, which the same with this one would make the unit not as efficient as you would want to use it. This is a Carrier unit. I don't mention the manufacturer, it's not required. You look at the data plate. Most of the times, like this one, they're starting to get better. The older units, they don't. This is a May 2020. Then you can write it in your report. Make sure if you do write any age of any unit in your report, that you have a statement that says that they must please verify your assumption of the date of the unit, get a licensed contractor to evaluate. So thereby you protect yourself, because sometimes you can get it wrong, especially with Bradford White hot water heaters and that, as their numbers rotate every 20 years. So have a look at that. The only reason I do recommend telling your client the age, sometimes just verbally tell them that and don't write it in the report, is I would like my client to know if this unit is 15, 20, 30 years old, because we test them to see if they operate as intended. Now, a 20-odd-year-old unit can work very well, but it could break in a month's time and your client's not going to be happy about it. I usually put a statement in my report saying any unit that I find that goes over 15 15 to 18 years. I put the statement in that it has reached the end of its lifespan. However, there is a possibility that the unit may still have longevity due to regular servicing. Get a licensed contractor to evaluate and see what the condition of the unit is. That way it protects you and the client knows that it's not a brand new unit. Always look at the pan, make sure there's no water or rust marks. If you see water and rust marks, write that up. Look at venting. If there are vents that come out, look where they go out through the roof, that you make sure there's no leaks around there. So also, it's very difficult to inspect HVAC units because we are not really taught correctly how to do it. I usually, whenever I get to an inspection, how I did it would be if there was a HVAC person working on the home that I was inspecting, I would normally chit chat to the guy and ask him questions and say, what do I look for? What is a condition that could be detrimental for the unit? And these guys are pretty nice and pretty informative to give you information that you learn. If this was a gas unit, we would open it up. We'd have a look at the burners, make sure there's no rust in it. We'd have a look at the wiring, that the wiring is good. Always, I take the data picture of the furnace, which is this section, and then the air conditioning section, I take a picture of that as well. So you have your evaporator coil up here, and then your combination of a furnace.